By adding elements in different layers, not only can I organize them, but I can come back in and adjust specific layers or specific elements within that layer without running the risk of manipulating other elements or other layers. When working in multiple layers, go ahead and drag the template layer to the top of the other layers you create. This leads me to the fourth reason I like to lock and rename my template layer. With the template layer on top of the other layers I created earlier, I'll go ahead and select the background layer. I'm going to place a background I created earlier for this tutorial in the document to show you why it's important to have the template layer on top of the other layers. As a side note, when adding or importing logos, images, backgrounds, photos, or any other elements which are created in another program like Photoshop or Illustrator into your InDesign document, avoid using copy and paste. By using copy and paste, you run the risk of adding low-resolution images to your InDesign document. To correctly add any elements to your InDesign document, go to File, and then Place. From here, navigate to find the element you wish to place in the InDesign document, select it, and then click Open. This will bring up a thumbnail preview of the image you are about to place into your InDesign document. From here, I can drop the background image anywhere in the document I wish. Once I've dropped the background image, I'll just center it into the document. Again, notice I placed the background on the background layer. The reason it was important to move the template layer above the other layers I created is, as you can see, the template layer is still visible even with the background now in the document. If I left my template layer below the other layers I created, I wouldn't be able to verify my background or other elements I'll add to this document are in the right position. With my template on top of the other layers, as I'm doing my design, I can easily spot check the position of anything I create or add in my document by clicking the eyeball to turn the template layer on and off. Now that I've explained why I like to lock and rename my template layer, and you have an understanding of how to use multiple layers in your InDesign document, let's move on. You'll recall earlier in this tutorial I discussed the three lines which appear on the template: the bleed line, the trim line, and the safe area line. Let's briefly discuss safe area so you can understand how it works. First, I'll start by turning off the template layer. With the templates layer turned off, you'll notice that I don't have any guides which reference the document size or bleed size. So let's go ahead and turn the guides back on. To do that, go to View, Grids and Guides, and then Show Guides. You'll notice that I now have the margin line, which, as I mentioned earlier, isn't important to this tutorial, the trim line represented by the black line, and the bleed line represented by the red line. To demonstrate safe area, I'll go ahead and add some text to this document. First, I'll click on the text layer I created earlier, and then select the text tool and create a text box. Inside the text box, I'll add a company's name. And I'll go ahead and make that text just a little larger so it's easy to see. Now that I've added the text, let's go back to the Layers palette and turn the template on to verify that our text falls within the safe area. It might be a little difficult to see the safe area line, so I'll go ahead and zoom in just to ensure that this text falls within the safe area. As you can see, the safe area is represented by the small dotted line, and my text falls safely within that area, so it won't trim off on the final piece. If my text were to fall outside the safe area line, it runs the risk of trimming off on the final piece. I'll go ahead and move that back into the safe area just so we ensure that it doesn't trim off. By this point in the tutorial, you should have a basic understanding of how a template works, the core components within the template, and how to turn those components on and off as you design to spot check your work. In addition to having a basic understanding of how templates work, you should understand how to correctly add a file into the InDesign document, how to use layers to organize different elements in the document, and how to position text within the safe area. With what you've learned so far, you should feel comfortable beginning your design using one of our templates. Before we move on to saving, let's go over the items in the Print Ready checklist. For timing purposes of this tutorial, we'll review the Print Ready checklist, go over how you can use a template even if your design is already finished to verify that your files are properly set up for print production, and learn how to save a file using Copycraft's PDF presets by working with the design I created earlier for this tutorial. I'll go ahead and open up the design I created earlier for this tutorial. And I'll also open up the template again just to use as a reference point later in the tutorial. Now that I have the template and the design I created earlier open into InDesign, I'll switch back over to my design and let's go over a few of the critical items on the Print Ready checklist. First, let's discuss this document's color settings. Unlike Illustrator or Photoshop, which contain document color mode settings that allow you to change the entire document's color mode from RGB to CMYK or to another color profile, InDesign does not support document color modes. Since InDesign does not support document color modes, each element within your InDesign document will have its own color settings. Since each element in the InDesign document contains its own color settings, it's important to convert any RGB elements or elements created in a spot color such as Pantone to CMYK prior to saving your document. Let's quickly take a look at all the elements in this document to ensure they're set to CMYK color. You'll notice in my layers that I still have the background, text, and photos layers, but I've also added a logo layer. Let's start by checking all the elements on the logo layer to verify they are in CMYK color. With the logo layer selected, I'll go ahead and lock the other three layers just to ensure I don't accidentally move anything on those layers as I'm checking the color on the logo layer. My logo is made up of these three elements: the mountains, the word Rocky Mountain, and then the word spa. Let's verify that the three elements on the logo layer are in CMYK color. The first element we'll look at is the line art of the mountain. I'll simply click on that, and then click on the color button in the right toolbar. If the color button doesn't appear in the right toolbar, go to Window and then Color. Once your color palette's open, verify that the color is in CMYK, which this is in white, so it is in CMYK. Let's look at the word Rocky Mountain to verify that it's in CMYK. Again, it's in white, and it's in CMYK. So both of these elements are correct and don't need to be converted. Let's now look at the word spa and see if it's in CMYK. As you can see, this came up with a Pantone value of 292. This will need to be converted to CMYK unless I'm intentionally designing in a spot color because my final piece needs to print with that spot color. To convert a spot color to CMYK, click on the Swatches button in the right toolbar. Again, if the Swatches button doesn't appear in the right toolbar, go to Window and then Swatches. Once your Swatches palette is open, find the Pantone or spot color that the element is in, and then double-click on the Cyan, Magenta, Yellow, and Black button. This will bring up a swatch options box.